Hello and welcome to the German R&D Center of the Music Group. We are dealing primarily with Behringer and Bulgara products. My name is Jan Duve and I'd like to introduce you to some of the projects we've been dealing with over the past 12 months mostly. But to give you some kind of background why we address to those projects, I'd like to show you some of our basic compact mixers that had been in production. I mean, we started doing mixers in 1995, if I'm not mistaken. If we just count the compact mixers in this size format, like the 1204, 1832 or 2442, these mixers in total have sold about 1.8 million times since the dawn of the new millennium. So it's quite a bit of compact mixing consoles that Behringer sells, and there are even smaller ones out there. I'm pretty sure that you're aware of the tremendous success of the X32, and we have seen the X32 as a platform development for us, breaking a new technology into Behringer products. And of course, we also had in mind that sooner or later we will have to find an answer of what will be next after our compact mixing consoles. It's nothing wrong with these mixers, but our life has changed. If we look back from the year 2000, we didn't have any iPads, there was no iPhone, there was barely any internet at that time. So our lives have changed dramatically, and people are used to do everything with their smartphones and do everything with tablets and computers. So these mixers don't care much about computers. They have USB interfaces, meanwhile, and there are multi-effects in there. They do the job, but they are not interactive in the way the modern user would expect it to be. So the X32 has shown that we can do very high profile audio processing and remote control it very conveniently through various apps from all sorts of devices. And now we've taken this to the next level, I would say, and bring the X32, which was addressed to more professional or rental companies. I mean, it's 32 input channels and 25 buses. It's a pretty large console. And the majority of applications obviously is much smaller from our customer base. So our answer to this is the X18. Now we have introduced the X18, a digital mixer that has no control surface and is completely remote controlled via iPad, tablet, PC or whatever. Now what can it do more than these mixers that you're already familiar with? It has 16 Midas preamps. All of these preamps are remote controllable. The exact same preamp that we are using on the X32 series. We also have 6 aux outputs. We feature the Behringer personal monitoring system Ultranet, which is also very, very popular. So in total you have like 6 stage wedges that you could feed, plus 16 independent channels that can be sent to every musician with his own mixer. We have MIDI control. We have an internal router, so there's no messing around with external routers. It just works out of the box. And not sure if you noted that the X18 does not have any dock connector. It's not bound to any sort of a specific tablet like an iPad or anything like that. It can work with any device. We can have a look at that over here. We have devices like Android applications. That's an iPad mini, all sorts. Even a small smartphone would be good enough to do a complete mix. I will show you that in a minute in a little more detail. And also the tray works perfectly fine for an Ultrabook or a small laptop. So it's a very tidy, all-included solution. There's a power supply internal, the router is internal. All you have to do is plug your microphone in, plug your loudspeaker in, and you're done. Everything else can be remote controlled from your iPhone if you wish. Now, the X18 can do a lot more than the standard mixers. As I said, we have controllable Midas preamps, which are very high-profile preamps that have been critically acclaimed in the X32 already. We have the exact same number and the same algorithms of effects that we're using in the X32 series. We only have 4 effect slots, true stereo effect slots for the X18. If you compare to these, in the maximum they might have 2 effects processors. Usually they only have 1 effects processor, it's mostly preset oriented. Now you get a real high quality studio effects with all the editing functions that you need if you want. Because our primary approach was designing the mixer in a way that it's pretty simple to operate. So you will find a simple export mode switch in the applications, which basically presents the functionality in a way that is accessible to beginners. Pretty much like, for example, the one-knob compressor that we have in our analog mixers translates into a compressor that can be controlled from selecting one of 4 presets and just dialing in the threshold. So it makes the operation really simple. But of course, if you click to the export mode, then you would see all parameters that are available, exactly the same parameters as on the X32. As I said, the complete channel processing is the same. So we have a low-cut filter independent. We have a gate in every microphone channel. We have a 4-band EQ, fully parametric. We have a dynamic section with compressor or expander functions, ducking functions, sidechain, whatever you need. Then of course sends to the 6 physical outputs and 4 effects buses. All of that is readily available in every channel. It's very similar to the structure we have in the X32. So this is by dimensions more powerful of editing the audio than the analog mixers ever could do. And of course, the convenience, or the real convenience, is that you just take your smartphone, switch it on, and move around in the venue somewhere where you think is the best position to judge how the mix should sound like, and not in the corner where maybe all the cables come together. Now, before we go into more detail about the applications and how that all integrates, there's a little bit more that I would like to share with you. First of all, it's the XR18. Very obvious companion, the exact same feature set as the X18, but as you can tell from the physical appearance, this is a desktop unit which can house, the tray can house, for example, a laptop or a tablet PC. It's good when it's put on a bar or somewhere on a desk, next to the stage maybe. But if you need something that has really been used as a stage box directly on stage or in a side rack, then you simply need a different form factor, and that's what the XR18 is doing. You can see we have the exact same number of inputs. It's all 16 Midas preamps. You can also see that they all come on combo jacks, so each input can be used either as a line input or a microphone input. The first 2 inputs have high Z preamplifiers on the line inputs, so you don't even need a direct box, for example, for using your guitar or a bass guitar directly into this box. You just dump this box somewhere on the stage, plug in your microphones, and then do all the mixing. You can move it somewhere where it's not even seen, and then you connect your applications and control everything remotely. So that's really exciting now. The two form factors obviously make sense for one or the other application. What you can see here is both of them come with the USB interface, 18 by 18 channels. So you can directly record your gig, or like we do here, playback something from this Reaper project. Functionally, there's very little difference from the XR18 to the X18. You see the 3-mode remote control section with the Wi-Fi module and the Ethernet control. It connects, like we currently use it in, as an access point. So every device, remote device, can directly connect to that mixer. But it could also be integrated into an existing Wi-Fi infrastructure as a Wi-Fi client, or it could be directly remote controlled from an Ethernet connection directly from a PC or from a wired network. Additionally, we have a MIDI interface here, which could be used for doing mutes or faders with a remote control, or like a BCF 2000, for example, would be ideal to control some of the faders remotely. But it could also be used as a MIDI interface for the USB connection. So effectively, this not only is a stage box and a digital mixer and a remote controlled mixer, it is also an audio interface, which is extremely powerful because you've got 16 very high quality inputs and even high Z inputs. You just mount the rack mounting brackets, screw it to your Stüdyo rack, and then connect microphones directly, record, control your external MIDI equipment if you like, or play your piano over this interface into your DAW software. So everything is multi-purpose, I would say. The only difference on the analog side, comparing the XR18 to the X18, is that we have XLR aux outputs to make it just a little bit more reliable in a live situation where this is put on the stage and somebody might stump over the cables, and just to make sure that none of the floor wedge feeds would get lost. So this is a very, very sturdy industrial design. You can just drop it on like any other stage box directly on the stage or anywhere else. It's very handy, very lightweight, and extremely powerful. The good thing about X18 and XR18 is that we have included the Ultranet personal monitoring system, which has been growing in popularity ever since we introduced the X32, because it's so incredibly convenient to have your own personal mix as a musician on stage. And that works well if you're a duo or if you're a 10-piece band. So it doesn't really matter. It's very comfortable to have your mix set up directly where you're performing. So all of this is included, 16 channels of personal monitoring plus 6 channels of stage monitoring or auxiliary outputs that could be used for a delay line or a secondary room that needs to be fed. We have a main output also on XLR. We have phones outputs, and there's additional line inputs here, 17, 18, which correspond pretty much to the X18 RCA in and outputs. So functionally, from the signal flow, all processing, and most of the analog I/O is very, very similar between both units. It just depends on your personal preferences. Do you want to put it down on stage, or would you rather have it as a desktop unit? So we were thinking of corresponding to the analog mixer line, we need something to be smaller than that and to be more cost efficient. So we thought about how could we possibly make that even more affordable, because in the end it's the same processing engine as we have in the X32. It's just a little less I/O and obviously no faders. But other than that, we were looking after or looking for possibilities to reduce the costs and make something more affordable with basically the same functionality. So what we did is we created the XR16, which differs from the XR18 in the number of analog Midas preamps. So we have 8 Midas preamps on combo jacks, basically also as usable as line inputs. plus 8 line inputs, and the last 2 of them are high Z line inputs, which could be used for direct connection of bass or guitar. We have 2 aux outputs less, so it's only 4 auxes, and main left-right on XLR. Obviously phones for solo monitoring, pre-listening. And you know this is a type A USB connector. That's rather than the 18-channel multi-channel interface that we have on the XR18 and X18. Here we have a 2-track recording, very much the same as we have on the X32. So you can run playback music or record your main mix or anything else directly on a USB stick. We have a MIDI interface and the same router functionality with access point mode, Wi-Fi client mode, or Ethernet wired remote control. Other than that, there is no connectivity, internal power supply. No surprises really, it's just a cut-down version which will be selling roughly around 500, definitely below $600. And the next in line is the XR12. It also features the same internal Wi-Fi module with antenna, MIDI, USB stereo recording. So obviously you see the number of Midas preamps has been reduced from 8 to 4. You still have 8 line inputs with 2 high Z inputs, and you have 2 aux outputs. So this is, I'm very much looking forward to have this for my wife. My wife is a singer and I'm playing guitar, so it's a duo. It's very, very convenient to put this somewhere down and just plug my guitars in, plug the microphone in, and I'm done. I don't need anything else. There's a very small, my wife would use a small floor monitor for hearing herself. We would have a main PA obviously, but that's it. It's nothing, and I still would have the same professional quality effects and processing chain as we have on the X32. So there's no compromise on a microphone signal that is fed in here and put out here as compared to the X32. It's the exact same thing. And that's something that is really revolutionary, I think, that something so tiny and small does the exact same processing as something that is really addressing to professionals in a much larger scale. So this clearly outperforms the 1204 or the analog mixers for a number of reasons, not only because it's completely remote controlled. And still we tried to bring it into a very similar price range, so this will be close to $300 selling. So let's speak about the applications for a minute. As I said, there are all sorts of devices that could control the XR series of mixers. We have an Android phone, for example. There are Android tablets, an iPad mini, iPad, a laptop. There's a PC, there's Mac software and Linux software available. So basically all sorts of devices can access and control the XR series very conveniently. On these applications currently, they are all connected to the same access point of this XR18. So here you can see the 4 effect slots. The effects, as I said, are true stereo effects, the same as we are using on X32. Can open the editing pages for each individual effect here. And you see it's all on the top area, and you still have your complete mix down here, so if there is anything happening on stage where you have to react immediately, you don't have to navigate between effects or other pages. So that's very convenient, and something that's really special about this iPad app is also the possibility to be able to edit your channel layout completely freely. For example, I could move channels around, just dragging them once I'm in edit mode, or I could move one channel on another channel to form a group. So now I have kick and snare in one group, and if I go back from the editing to the main page, you see they both move in the same group. And that is a really intuitive way for building complete groups for all sorts of applications. Let's see if I can, for example, here the small triangle shows you that this is a complete group that can be unfolded. Then I can edit the individual members of that group, or just press back and then it's behaving as a DCA group, basically. So that's very convenient, and there's a couple of very nice designs in this iPad app, which differ a little bit from the other applications due to the fact that the iPad screen sizes are always the same. Now this is the Android app running on an Nexus 7. As you can see, there are different layer configurations that are completely customizable. So channels that you don't need can just be removed or relabeled or given a different color. There's also a possibility to see a complete channel overview, so that's what's happening in this channel. You can step through the channels using these arrows here. And if you enter the individual channel editing, you can also see, for example, the RTA overlaid over the EQ settings. So this is very, very nice and very convenient, and it works on any Android device. That's the cute thing about it. It's not maybe graphically not as refined as the iPad applications, but it is a dynamic layout that is optimized for the device that it is running on. Whatever device you choose, there's always a way to control the XR mixers. And the good thing about that is that the applications will be loaded to the specific device, so you still have the possibility of preparing a show offline when no mixer is available. For example, you're sitting in the car going to a gig, you could still prepare your channel layout, for example, which you couldn't do if there was a kind of an HTML5 server in the devices. So this is a clear advantage. For us, it has the drawback that we have to provide more apps, so it's more work for us, because we have to provide apps for Linux, Mac, and iOS or Android devices. But for the end user, I think it's much preferable to have an app that they can always carry around with them and prepare things, and then just connect to the mixer, and it does exactly what the app is showing you. As you see, there are multiple devices currently connected to just this mixer. If you think this mixer should be controlled from even further distances, I mean, the field strength of this Wi-Fi module is pretty good, so it's, for the vicinity of the mixer's typical applications, there's absolutely no problem using the internal router. But if you think that you might want to integrate the mixers into a larger setup, you could connect them to a wired network or connect an external specific, for example, a 5 GHz router, just to make sure that even more devices could connect sufficiently with sufficient bandwidth, because you can see that there's a lot of metering going on, so there's quite a bit of data traffic, but still it can be handled on various devices concurrently. Okay, I hope that gives a small impression of what we have been working on over the past couple of months. Just to round it up, the XR18 and X18 both will be starting production in October. They both will be selling for about $800 map. The XR16 and XR12 will be following towards end of October in production. XR16 will be selling for about $500 and XR12 for about $300. So stay tuned with Behringer.com, and thanks for your attention.